every single disease, as well as person with their comorbidities and limitations, poses a challenge that they have to, with us, I guess, develop a solution to become, to change that lifestyle behavior.
This is the James Cancer-Free World podcast. I'm Steve Wartenberg, and my guest is Dr. Roberto Benzo. Roberto is a health promotion and behavioral scientist, and he is the director of the James Lifestyle Lab. Roberto and his Lifestyle Lab study how behaviors such as diet, exercise or lack of exercise, weight and obesity, and alcohol consumption can all impact a person's risk of getting and dying from cancer. And they have developed innovative lifestyle interventions to reduce the cancer risk and help people live healthier lives. They also work with James patients because lifestyle changes, even after a cancer diagnosis, can lead to better outcomes and quality of life for patients. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So I'm always interested in learning about these kind of things, exercise and stress and lifestyles and how we can measure it. But first, you're a behavioral scientist. I think the first one we've had on the podcast. So give us a quick overview of what is a behavioral scientist.
Yeah, sure. So I trained in behavioral medicine, and a behavioral scientist studies how people behave and what drives those behaviors, right? Those or the habits. So it could be things like your environment, it could be your past experiences, your capabilities, the people around you. All these things drive what we do from day to day. And in the world of behavioral science, I focus on empowering people to become more active, to eat better, and to manage their stress. So to put things a little bit in perspective, where this kind of, as we work in the world of wellness, the pharmaceutical industry worldwide, the revenue that they generated in 2025 is about $1.3 trillion.
Okay, and 1.3 trillion.
1.3 trillion. So a big number, right?
Yeah.
We don't hear trillion very often nowadays. Now it's more billions. But the wellness industry is a $6.3 trillion industry in the same year. And it's projected to become $9 trillion by 2030. So why do I bring this up? Why do I say this? Because, well, we know the pharmaceutical industry is massive in helping people. And it's evidence-based, right? There's ways to develop pharmaceuticals. But the wellness industry, most of the things that are out there are not evidence-based. They haven't been studied. And so there's a lot of, if I may say, a lot of snake oil being sold out there. And so why is this important? And this is important because often, motivation's like the wind. It comes and goes, right? And sometimes we're motivated to live a little bit healthier and live a little bit better. And we may do that through starting a new exercise program, by trying a new diet or form of eating. But there's so many things that are sold out there. Maybe we tried the wrong thing or the thing that's not evidence-based, and then it doesn't work. But our money's limited, our time is limited, so is our motivation. And so then we may start thinking that it's not for us. And so that's the science that I'm in, helping people find the right solutions for them at the right time. So we grab what's evidence-based out there and we put it together in a beautiful package that is appropriate and relevant for people. And so that way, whenever they are motivated, whenever they have the time in their life, then they get the most bang for their buck. Then we try something that we know at least works for most.
So that leads us into the lifestyle lab that you lead. So again, that's a fairly new concept to me and maybe to others. What exactly is a lifestyle lab, and what are who are the people in your lab?
Right. So lifestyle is a broad term, right?
Yeah.
So we're focused more on physical activity, sedentary behavior, which is different. It's how much we sit. Some healthy eating. I'm not a dietitian, so we have a very team science-based approach, and stress management. I
like that stress management part, because I think most people don't recognize stress is not good.
It's not good. And often it's one of the top reasons why we don't eat healthier, why we don't be active, why we don't try different things, because we're stressed from partners, work, life, disease. And so what we do is we try to develop and we evaluate or test digital interventions so we can reach people where they are, to help people, empower them to live healthier through these behaviors, right? And how do we do it? Well, look, I'm just one person, right? But we have a great team at the Lifestyle Lab, and we collaborate with many different institutions like Mayo Clinic and Miami, University of Miami, and UCSF, Hawaii, Northwestern, because we work together with computer scientists, designers, oncologists, surgeons, psychologists to make these really kind of empathic solutions, these well-tailored solutions for people. And that's where really a lot of the designers come in, right? We use human-centered design, so we create solutions that are appropriate, that are relevant, and that are engaging. I'm sure we've all downloaded an app or started some program, and it was very clear it was not for us. And so then just throw that out, right? And so it's very important that when people are ready, that we give them stuff that's made for them and in part by them. So that's what we do at the Lifestyle Lab.
Wow. So before we start talking about some of the specific things you do, I know that there's some kind of numbers that are out there about how different lifestyle factors can increase the cancer risk. Are there numbers that you've sort of agreed upon?
Yeah. And let me back up for 1 second. I should have mentioned this. So at the Lifestyle Lab, the way we get people empowered, right? We often use a lot of wearables, a lot of mobile health technology, okay, which we can come back to. We use a lot of technology in terms of computational models as well to analyze that data. And so that we develop a lot of applications and other kinds of solutions that integrate the data from the wearable so we can process it and empower people to see where they are and what is the next step.
Yeah, that's true, because just knowing how many steps you take in a day may not be the answer to everything.
Right. Maybe it's about the many steps that you get, and because it's not the same every day, and identifying when is it lower, when is it higher? What are the reasons for that? Yeah. What are the solutions I create? And also, what are my symptoms? How do I feel when they're higher or lower, right? When I sleep better or don't. And that's where we become empowered, because look, through my education, right, we always learn about, if you meet the physical activity guidelines, you reduce the chance of all-cause mortality by 30 or 40% in like 20, 30 years or whatever, something like that. But I'm sad today. I'm overweight today. Yeah. I don't feel good today. And so by kind of closing that gap nowadays, that we can do that with technology and show people, when you change these behaviors, this is how your health improves. Then we're narrowing that gap, and all of a sudden it's not so much as a delayed gratification, but a more proximal gratification if we get for our efforts.
Oh, that makes sense. It's not like saying, you'll live 10 years longer, which is way in this future. You'll feel better tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if life is poor, then what does it matter to have 10 extra years?
Yeah. And even if you're not going to change everything in a day, but if it's like that psychological thing of knowing you're moving in the right direction can make you feel so much better.
Well, that's a key thing, right? Like you said it, like even like it's not about also, it's about what we can change, right? Within that. So to the numbers that you've asked me about, okay, right? So we focus on physical activity and healthy eating, and part of that also body composition, which is largely determined by how much we move and what we take out and what we put in. And so we know that 18% of all cancer cases, which is about 1 in 5, are due to our body weight. So if we're healthy weight or overweight or obese, by our physical activity, so how much activity we get every day, and by what we eat and drink, meaning the food that we take in and alcohol. So these 4 things attribute to nearly 1 in 5 cancer cases. And that's important to consider, given that nearly 1 in 2 individuals in the world will be diagnosed with some sort of cancer.
And that does not even include smoking, which probably is a huge percentage of cancer cases.
Huge.
So we obviously know smoking, direct link to cancer, but the things you just said, obesity, exercise, eating, that contributes 18% of all cancers.
And 16% of cancer deaths. So even after we get cancer, it's not too late. Often we know that being more active and eating healthier will help tolerate more of the treatment that you're getting, the therapies, will allow you to better manage the symptoms that were very common in the kind of therapies that are for cancer. And so it helps people live better today and tomorrow, right? And better manage that disease. And so, yeah, and so that's why we focus on that, right? We can't focus on everything, but this is what we focus on. Something that's meant a lot to me my whole life. Um,
Okay. Well, good. That was a great overview. Now we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Roberto will fill us in on specific kinds of interventions and uh, technologies and devices that you and your team have created.
The best outcomes for treating cancer come from early detection and early diagnosis.
The James Cancer Diagnostic Center at Ohio State
is designed to provide rapid evaluation and a clear diagnosis.
We are transforming care by giving patients direct access
to cancer experts who study and treat cancer every day.
If you think you have cancer, the choice is clear.
Choose the James Cancer Diagnostic Center.
We're back with Roberto Benzo, and fill us in on some of the mobile health technologies. I think people now know about these Fitbits and the like, but I'm sure it's not as simple as the people who make them would like us to believe, and that you found a lot more to them.
Yeah, so mobile health technologies are everyday things that we see nowadays, right? Things that are technology and they're mobile, right? It's things like an iPhone, an Android, things like a fitness tracker like a Fitbit or Apple Watch or a Garmin. It could be like a blood pressure cuff that you take with you, or even applications, right? They live within your phone and you use those. So these are technologies that help you better understand your health or proxy measures of your health. Things like your activity, how much activity am I getting, your sleep, your heart rate, can even do your oxygen saturation, so how much oxygen is actually going around in your body. So these technologies, obviously, they've been exploding, right, the past 2 decades. And more they're being used by everyone. So we use them all the time. Why do we use them? Because it helps us increase awareness, both from the patient side or the participant side, as well as for us, right? In the past, for example, for physical activity, if you wanted to measure physical activity, and we still do this, you give them a survey. Oh, in the last 30 days, how many minutes have you had of light activity? Things like, walking slowly, doing some housework, or moderate activities. How many minutes do you get a day? How would you know that, right? How would you know how much time I've spent moderate activity the past 30 days, let alone today? How do I even tell you that? And so that's one of the biggest limitations that we have in the past about kind of survey-based information, right? We have recall bias, so we don't remember exactly what happened, or a sequence of events, we don't understand how they played out, and also social desirability bias, right? They will tell you what you want to hear. Oh, yes, doc, I'm active, I'm active. But the truth is, we don't remember, we may not tell the truth, and so we can use these devices, which are seamless, like this Oura Ring that I have here, right? Just one of many, to better understand how people actually move, at what part of the day, and which days of the week are you moving more or less? What happened on the days before that your activity decreased? So it gives us a glimpse, and as a behavioral scientist, we need to understand where we are before we prescribe anything of where we're going forward. And more importantly, really, it's about the participant that decides how to move forward, but to understand and come to terms about where I am. And so this allows us to get information from the real world when it's happening, while it's happening, right? You often don't get real-time data, but near real-time. But then when we have, for example, we have a health coaching study that we can talk about later. But then the health coaches bring the participants in, they meet with them once a week, and they're able to say, hey, look, you had a goal of 5,000 steps. I see that Monday and Thursday you did great, but what happened Tuesday and Wednesday? Oh, Tuesday I got a flat tire. Oh, Wednesday, you know what happened? I just felt terrible after the chemo on Monday. On Wednesday it really hit me. And we start learning about what really are the determinants of physical activity for that person, because we are all very different, but the same in many ways, right? And so we use mobile health technology for that. And we integrate that data into the application so that they can see how they're doing, how they achieve their goal. We also use that data to develop AI models to be able to predict perhaps outcomes, engagements in the intervention. And then I want to discern or just say that it's very different to use a commercial wearable or a commercial device versus a research grade device. So for example, commercial wearables are what we all know, the Fitbit, the Apple Watch, and they make estimates of these parameters of the sleep, of the heart rate, of the activity based on some sort of algorithm. But that algorithm is typically a black box. We don't know how they develop it. That's the magic, right? And research grade means that we're using devices that we understand how we calculate those numbers and devices that we know how accurate and reliable they are. So often we'll use like research grades before and after some program to see if it really works so that we can feel confident in the numbers we're looking at. But those kind of devices are typically not user friendly, doesn't have the pretty app with the pretty face. And so for during the intervention, we use the commercial devices so people know how to use them so that all the millions of dollars that Google or Garmin spend on the devices, on the user interface, play in our favor. And while they may not be so accurate, it's more about the relative change. Is there more or less activity and helping them make that behavior change and understand the context of what's happening.
So I think I'm starting to understand, and one thing that I didn't ask you about, the people you see, your clients, your patients, are James patients who are in all the different various stages of their cancer journey?
Yeah, it depends on the study. We don't always recruit just from the Ohio State University, from the James or the Comprehensive Cancer Center. We sometimes will, we have one study that we're recruiting through Northwestern as well. So it depends. It depends on the study. And often if the study is like smaller, which a lot of our studies are smaller because they're more what's called the pilot or feasibility trials, which means that we kind of test it out, look at everything really and make sure that everything is going in the right direction in terms of the numbers. And then we apply for a larger grant to look at really how effective is that intervention in changing, where we are called what's called powered, meaning that we have enough people to feel confident in the changes that we're seeing.
Right. Okay, good. So, okay, now I'm getting it, because this is for people undergoing cancer treatment or even post-cancer treatment. You're working with them to improve their quality of life through these things, and you're measuring them, studying them, and then can use that for the next generation of people diagnosed going through this.
Yeah. So depending on the study, it may be during treatment, maybe after treatment. Exactly. And both are very different worlds.
Yeah.
And also every cancer is a very different world because it leads to different symptoms and different limitations. Having someone with lung cancer that maybe they move a little bit slower, they have dyspnea, shortness of breath, they may shuffle their feet, they have a physical capacity that's very low, versus someone that perhaps has colorectal cancer and has other limitations related to their to their gut and their intestines. Like they may have a bag and there may be exercises that they can or cannot do. So every single disease, as well as person with their comorbidities and limitations, poses a challenge that they have to, with us, I guess, develop a solution to become, to change that lifestyle behavior.
So you've described the different mobile health technologies and the data you can get from them. How do you then use that for the patients?
Yeah, so we use it to help us and them better understand where they're at. If it's an intervention about activity, then showing them how active they are and what days they are more active, and helping them establish kind of new goals and new behaviors. If it's about sleep, same thing. Sometimes we have a study that we're looking both at sleep and activity, right? How does one impact the other at some point we'll look at. But then there are other things, like we have a study that was recently funded in the field of cardio-oncology, which is the intersection between cancer and oncology, because, cardiovascular disease is the number one reason of non-malignant cause of death. So people that have cancer, the number one non-cancer cause is cardiovascular disease. And there have been in certain cancers, and this differs by cancers, and there have been years where CVD or cardiovascular disease has surpassed the death of by cancer. And this is due to many amazing new therapies that are helping many of us and many cancer survivors live longer and improve their health. But however, they have cardiotoxic effects, or they're just hard on the heart. So we have an intervention that is meant to track their cardiovascular health. One of the measures that we have is blood pressure. So we use a blood pressure cuff that people can take with them to measure their blood pressure, but we also give them a way to improve their cardiovascular health through physical activity. So we use the tracker for several things. So it depends on the measure, but yeah, we can use these kind of mobile health technology to better understand what their blood pressure looks like in their house, at work, throughout the day, not just when they come into the clinic, and their activity, the same thing. And then how does that activity or patterns of activity impact their blood pressure and other metrics perhaps of cardiovascular health, which are typically called, there's the American Heart Association has put together what's called the Life Essential 8, which are 8 metrics of cardiovascular health. And so it allows you to look at perhaps how some of those metrics that can be measured through mobile health impact their overall cardiovascular health. And so we have a study where we're gamifying.
Making a game of it.
Yeah, making it so let's roll back for a second. So we know that when patients track their symptoms, they tend to have better outcomes. We published a paper on the Journal of Clinical Oncology that we showed, that was a part of the University of Miami, of the group that I was a fellow under, that I think I was 9,000 or 10,000 individuals. I can't remember the exact numbers, but we saw that people that actually use this tool, not the one that we're testing, a tool that's integrated into the electronic health record to track their symptoms every month, well, it led to significantly less chances of hospitalization, of ER visits, and less length of hospitalization during that time. Because how can a provider know what your anxiety and your stress and your depression's level unless we have a particular way of knowing? And so when they track these things with the right tools, and they can bring these reports to their medical team, they can get a little more information about perhaps how to manage it. Or there might be services already offered at the Comprehensive Cancer Center that allows them to manage it. And so
you're identifying problems before they become to the range that you need to go to the hospital, so you can deal with them sooner.
we are working on a solution towards that end.
Yes, because that's the goal of this research.
But the goal of this research is, look, we know that if you track your symptoms, it seems like it's associated with better outcomes. So what we're doing is we're basically providing them a tool to be able to do that. But the tool, sometimes it's not enough, because we want to feel engaged. We want feedback. This is part of behavioral science. And so we're trying to gamify it. So in a simple way, kind of like Duolingo, right? You get your streaks, you get your feedback, but you can also get a report. You understand where you are. And so this is an intervention for patients that are undergoing some sort of cancer treatment. As we know, with cancer treatments, there are often side effects and symptoms that come up. And so that provides a value for the individual. This is very important in behavioral science. Don't develop interventions for people that there's no value in, right? And so it's aligning that value with the solution. And so people will be tracking their symptoms once a week for 5 weeks. It takes about 5 minutes. And after then they can download a report. They can see their symptoms over time. They can take this to their medical provider. They can add notes about why perhaps their anxiety was higher or lower. And so in this study, there's a very long way to get to your question, is we're also giving them, for one of the weeks, accelerometers or trackers, fitness trackers, so that we can tie how their behaviors are tied to those symptoms.
And exercise can help reduce them?
And exercise has been shown. There's specific recommendations to help improve some of the most common symptoms that we see in cancer. So the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM, has held 3 roundtables. They've done this big review, and they've learned through analyzing, looking at all the scientific literature, and come up with specific recommendations of how much aerobic activity or resistance training, or a combination of thereof, you need to do to improve your fatigue, your anxiety, your depression, your health-related quality of life, and your physical function. And there's moderate evidence for bone health and sleep. Maybe I forgot one. But in short, this information is out there. Most people may not know how to find it. And then the behavioral science piece is that knowledge is not enough. Knowledge is not enough. We all know we got to eat better and shouldn't eat McDonald's. We all know that we got to move a little bit more, but clearly knowledge is not enough. So the behavioral science is, how do we get people to do it? And backing up from that, in my science of behavioral science, I only focus on those that find a value or want to change, not those that I'm not here to change, people's minds necessarily, or make them do something they don't want to do. But because changing behaviors is so hard, it's so tough, but not impossible.
And yes, changing long-held behaviors is very difficult. So that leads to the question, how do you help people change their behaviors? What are sort of the practical tips you can give people to help them do a little more exercise, eat a little better?
I'll just mention some that come to mind. One is consistency. Consistency is one of the top secrets of how do you achieve results. And so consistency doesn't mean that every day you're going to get up and you're going to do a super hard workout so you can get super fit. No, consistency means doing something every day, showing up every day, rain or shine. What can you do? And it's also being compassionate about what's coming up the next day. So you don't go so hard today that then tomorrow you can't show up. It's really important to manage the ebbs and the flows and just try to do whatever is available to you during that day.
Consistent moderation.
Consistent moderation. And sometimes you go high, sometimes you go lower,
right.
Sometimes you go middle, but it's being considerate about what's coming up and being considerate of maintaining consistency. So I would say that aligned with consistency comes acceptance. Acceptance and awareness, right? Awareness of where we are is first, and acceptance of where we are. Acceptance means not necessarily just being at peace of where we are, meaning if we're not active, if we're obese, if our knee has been messed up for 20 years because of an old football injury or an accident that I had in a car. It means being accepting and at peace of where we are, because often we are not happy about where we are. And so then that pushes us to try to get to where we want to go as fast as we can. But then that comes back to the consistency, because we can't maintain that level. And so acceptance and awareness is key. Consistency is key. And then we can start talking about other behavior change techniques, which are related to goal setting, right? Creating compassionate goals that are within our means. A lot of times we can use what's called the SMART goals, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So these are 5 components that are evidence-based to help people make better goals. If I just say, I'm just going to be more active this week. Yeah, but how much more active? How long? Where? With who? When you really drive down specifics, all of a sudden your plan becomes more solid, less likely that some other external force is going to come and disrupt it, like stress because of a new job demand. Well, no, if you have the time locked out. And so then the second piece about setting goals and setting perhaps SMART goals is about action planning, right? Like how, making sure that you know everything that you need as well, and like how you're actually going to get it done, right? Having the time set up. So it's very aligned with kind of SMART goal setting. I think it's important to mention that so that people hear out there, look, becoming active for one of the behaviors, right? Just let's say getting active. There can be so many things that stop us, right? Time, stress, but also, is there a sidewalk?
Yeah.
Is there a bike?
Do I have a bike?
Is the bike work well?
Yeah.
Do I know how to ride it? Do I have someone to ride with? Do cars drive like crazy around me and I don't feel safe? Do I have the lights if I'm going to go a little late because I got to go after work? Do I have anybody to ride with? There's so much complexity about getting someone to establish a new behavior. And so I think it's important for people to know that, to be compassionate with themselves, to be accepting of what the conditions are, and to try new things. Look, it's the game here is, of course, consistency and compassion and all that, but it's also about, you don't have to like it. You just have to try it. Just give it a go. And that means trying new workout classes or trying new activities with different friends. Sometimes it's the right activity, but with the wrong friend. Sometimes and vice versa, right? And so it's having this flexibility and this open mentality, and remembering that all the beautiful things around us, just like the problems, they're a privilege. Suffering, just like joy, is a privilege. You have to be alive to have it. And so having this mentality that I get to try something. No, I have to try something. No, I get to do it. Like if your legs still work, that's a beautiful thing. Get to it. And like and the positive behaviors, and we know from science that positive behaviors that you establish do bleed over to your friends and family. So if it helps, the purpose is bigger than yourself. When I was very young in my training, and I went up to one of the world experts in physical activity, who's Dr. James Salas, and I asked him, hey, like, I just went up to ask him, I was like, how do you do it? How do you design these physical activity programs? He's like, well, the secret is you want them to do it, find something they enjoy.
Yes.
And so that comes back to, you don't have to like it, just try it. Something will hit. And also understanding what hits and works today may not work tomorrow. Okay? Like, the beauty of life is that it's ever changing. The weather changes, our environment changes, our bodies change. Very important to recognize that. As we age, they change. And so that means that the activities that we once did may no longer be enjoyable. Then the city that we once lived, the next one may not have the same capacity. But look, every second spent ruminating about how it's not optimal, how it's not great, is a minute you're taking away to finding a solution so that you feel better. So remembering that the privilege that we have to keep trying, and and being open to the fact that, yeah, this is what I love today. And just letting it be today, that's all we have. I think is an important mentality. And one more thing that I think we talked about that I should probably mention is also the power of social support.
Yes.
So what is social support, right? Social support means having somebody to help you with something. And so we typically break this down into three types. There's emotional, someone that hears you, that listens to you, that's good to talk to, that makes you feel better. Informational, someone that gives you the right information, helps you understand whatever you're asking about. And then lastly, tangible, someone that helps you do things like going to the supermarket, cutting the grass, or going to do some activity or eat a little bit healthier. Now, one person very likely will not fit all three. And so we have to spend the time to find those people that help support us in the different things. So I'm not going to ask my mother, if she's not a physician, about some medical advice about a cancer I have. No, I'll wait for the right people, right? The same thing about the emotional support. Maybe if I'm talking to a friend and they tell me I'm always right. Well, maybe that's not the right person to talk about some problems that I'm having. And then for the tangible piece, right? Finding those people, and we talked about earlier, that allow you to grow in that activity, that help you feel like you belong, that are patient with you. And sometimes that person may be too fast or too slow, and it may not be the right fit, but that's okay. It's very important to have a non-judgmental state of mind in terms of where we are, and just keep cycling and finding the right person. But no one will do that work for you.
That's great. I really agree with that, and have found that in my own life, that's helpful. And everything we talk about, or everything you do, is with cancer patients who have extra challenges, but also at the same time, I've noticed cancer patients are pretty resilient and pretty determined. Kind of, what have you learned from the cancer patients you've worked with here?
I've learned so much from cancer survivors about acceptance, about compassion, about patience, about resilience. And we're hoping to get all this information out to others to help motivate them to feel less alone, to normalize the chaos in the world, and also to bring forward, the finding of joy and contentment, I guess, of what they do have. So just helping people feel like they belong, I think, is the goal.
Wow. Thank you, Roberto. That was really fascinating. And and I came into this not quite understanding what you do, and now I have a better understanding in how it's tailored toward cancer patients and their special needs, and helping them day by day improve their quality of life. And that's a wonderful thing you do, and must be very rewarding.
It is. It's a privilege, and I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to OSU for giving me a home here. So yeah, I'm me, Roberto, and just doing the best I can here.
Well, thank you. This podcast is brought to you by the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, Arthur G. James Cancer Hospital, and Richard J. Solove Research Institute. For more information, check out our website, cancer.osu.edu.